An out-of-control wildfire burning in Nova Scotia's Annapolis County.
A wildfire has been burning out of control.
We really can't imagine what it must feel like. And also with the added anxiety of not knowing what's happening to your home.
A bird's eye view from a Cessna shows just how out of control the Long Lake wildfire grew this weekend.
The glass from the window that was from the garage, it actually melted.
I'm Todd Burgess. I'm the Executive Director of Forest Nova Scotia, and you are listening to Forestry Uncut. The West Dalhousie fire burned through more than 8,400 hectares of forest, one of the largest wildfires this region has ever seen. For those of us who work in forestry, it was more than just a blaze on a map. It was in our backyards, it was our livelihoods, and our communities that were under threat. In this episode, we'll share some perspectives that go beyond what you may have heard in the media.
I am a regional forester for the Department of Natural Resources or the western part of the province. So I work on the Integrated Resource Management Team.
Integrated Resource Management Team. Okay. So what does that mean?
So basically what that means is anything that happens on Crown land in the western part of the province is overseen by my team. So I have a team of foresters, biologists, and land admin specialists.
During that fire, Kaitlyn Enders served as the heavy equipment coordinator, working with operators, contractors, and community members to bring every possible resource to the front lines. Together, we'll talk about what it was like on the ground during those critical days, how communities and industry work together side by side, and what we can learn from this huge incident. That was a big fire, 8,400 hectares, and you were the heavy equipment coordinator. So tell me a little bit more about that. So what did you have to do?
When I arrived, there was already 37 pieces of equipment.
So when you say pieces of equipment, what do you mean by pieces of equipment?
So a typical dozer group is a buncher that leads the way by cutting all the trees and then followed by an excavator that is clearing the stumps, scrubbing off the surface. It could be one or two, and then a dozer comes behind it and kind of makes almost like a road and then pushes the rest of the dirt and material up on the other side to create a guard.
Okay. So that's 3 or 4 pieces of gear in one group, and you had 37 pieces of gear when you showed up.
Yeah, and I included in that gear is our float operators, and we had some forwarders that were used as water tanks to carry around through the woods and help the crews. Actually, they had pumps attached to the back of them, and people were working hose lines off of them. So
okay, that sounds like a big effort. So your role was to coordinate that, or what did you do to coordinate?
Yeah, so each dozer group had a dozer boss, and so they were laying flag, they were leading their kind of crews along the fire's edge and the perimeter, and it was my job to coordinate between the different divisions of the fire and the different dozer groups to figure out what equipment that they needed, when they needed it, and, certain landscapes were different than others, so those really rocky, rough-going landscapes, required a 50-ton excavator, but where we had 20-ton excavators on site, those more sites that didn't necessarily require that, moving that equipment around and trying to help our dozer bosses as best as possible.
So how did you find all these pieces of equipment? Where did you go?
Nova Scotians are so willing to help that I didn't have to look that far. People were calling in, giving their name, telling me what pieces of equipment they had if I needed them. Talking to the contractors. Oh, I know somebody that, has another 50-ton. So equipment was just kind of rolling my way. Okay. Through the department, there is, a system that when things first happen, people just showed up, and it was what we needed to happen. But as we became more established, we needed to go through the proper protocols and systems. So it had to go up to the command center, and all these requests had come in officially with the Nova Scotia Guard. So we had developed that previous to the 2023 fires, and people have gone through this training. We have, lists of contractors there. So we really wanted to connect with them and utilize them for that.
To understand why and how the community stepped up, we're joined by someone who knows these forests and this community better than most.
So I'm a sixth-generation sawmiller. So Freeman family's lived on the Medway River since 1832, and
1832.
1832. So we've been at it for a long time. We're probably not the oldest sawmill in North America, but we're among the oldest continuous operations in North America. So something we're pretty proud of. Our perspective's unique, at least our family. We don't look at the business cycle as much as we look generationally. When we talk about sustainability, we're not even thinking about a 100-year timber supply, we're thinking beyond.
When the fire first broke out, Stephen Freeman and his family company were among the community members who stepped up, helping to supply heavy equipment and support the response effort.
I'm not a religious person, but something like this was an act of God, and it's going to take an act of God to put it out. I know industry and DNR have worked close together to fight the fire, and a spectacular job has been done. But this one really hits home. I mean, I'm a 20-year first responder myself. I'm a volunteer firefighter. But we had a qualified crew that we sent from our station in Bridgewater. They pumped water for a long time and filled a lot of trucks. And, we were able to make an impact that way. And I was able to provide coverage in town, of course. I've worked many wildfires. It's dirty work. I know working, doing structural firefighting, it's intense. But the contractors, the logging contractors and construction contractors that were out there building dozer guards, they worked weeks on end straight. And so I take zero credit for what those folks did. It's real heroism what they did.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Hopefully we can get some of those stories as we continue.
It's an important story to tell, right? Nobody was there for, obviously contractors get paid in that sort of situation. You don't work 21 days straight because you're concerned about a paycheck. And I've talked to a few of the folks that work the fire, and they were there because they care. And we all care deeply about the forest. It's our livelihood. And, loggers get painted with a bad rap sometimes. And when you see folks out there in the community, your R&C Weir, who we work with, Eisner's Forestry, who we work with, Backcountry Farm and Forestry. I could go on and on with the list of contractors that stepped up. At one point, out of our own contractor base, there were 30 pieces of equipment working there, and maybe more. Our own employees, our own 50-ton excavator was there from Freeman Lumber. And really, in terms of response, everyone wanted to do what they could. They wanted the call. People were waiting for the call.
Now that we've walked through the fire itself and the incredible community response, it's time to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What can we learn from the West Dalhousie fire, and what lessons are we taking forward to prevent, prepare for, and respond to future fires more effectively? What do you feel like you learned on your role with this wildfire for the future? Because we're going to get more. We're going to get other wildfires, especially, and I think we're probably ripe for one in northern Nova Scotia, Fiona going through. So what have you learned? What do we need to do different? What do we have to prepare for?
I think that every fire, provides a different experience. And like you said, had it happened in the more eastern part of the province where Fiona, struck, and you have all those, laddered fuels and everything, that was like, a huge concern this fire season. But all we can do is continue to try to remove those kind of fuels that are left in the woods. A lot of planning needs to happen. And so we need more training within the department to kind of prepare people for these large scale events. We're really good at putting out fires at small scale, so much to the point where like the general public doesn't always hear about them because we've rapidly responded, we've put it out, and it doesn't really become anything of it because it was such a rapid response. But when these large scale fires happen and we are doing the best of our ability to coordinate and bring everything together, it does take several days to kind of get your head wrapped around things, that you're get a handle on the situation that is ever changing every day, that the weather brings something different. It's so all I can say is just more planning, more things in place, for these contractors that came, and just like a call to duty. We need to have rates in place beforehand. We need to have contracts that are designed so when they call upon these people and they ask for help, that these documentations, all this information is known ahead of time. And I think that's our biggest gap.
After a fire, the work doesn't stop when the flames go out. One of the biggest questions is what happens to all that burnt wood? Can it be salvaged? Can we replant and restore the forest to a productive, healthy state? 8,400 hectares. That is that's almost 20, well, how big is that? 18,000 acres. I'm just trying to put it into perspective for some of our listeners. What about all that burnt wood that's there? Is there any burnt wood that you'll be able to use, or what can we do with that? What about replanting? Do you know about any plans to get it back to a productive forest again?
So there's options. When fire ripped through Tantalon, we did a bunch of salvage harvests. And with the artificial intelligence we have in the mill, we can tell the difference between rot and burn, for instance. So we have the ability to process that wood. And I think the fire itself was a tragedy. I think the biggest tragedy would be if there was, if that forest resource went to waste and there wasn't an opportunity to create a new forest. I think, in my personal opinion, there's going to be an opportunity to harvest some of that wood. The window's short. You have about a year before it becomes valueless, right, and it starts to blow over. And, I want to see new forests there. I want to see it sustainably managed. You have a bunch of different landowners there. We lost 2 very nice woodlots. Freeman Lumber lost 2 very nice woodlots.
Your own woodlots, okay.
We lost our own woodlots, and there's a lot of different landowners there with a lot of different objectives. But it would be a tragedy if that wood didn't get cleaned up and used, in my personal opinion. And I think, it's an opportunity to provide some closure and help the folks that had to experience that in their own backyard move on as well. I know when we did work in Tantalon area after the fire, people were just so grateful to have that black mess cleaned up and see a new forest be replanted. And I'm hoping that we see a lot of that in the wake of this fire. And I hope a lot of this wood is salvageable because, if it lays down and dies, it's just going to create more fire load and it's going to stop a new forest from growing. Like I said, not a forester, but I know a lot of foresters, and they're all saying the same thing.
The West Dalhousie fire may have left a blackened landscape, but it also opened a window for action, recovery, and renewal. From salvage harvesting to replanting, there's a chance to create new forests, support landowners, and reduce future fire risk. As Stephen said, the biggest tragedy would be letting the resource go to waste. But by acting quickly and thoughtfully, we can ensure these forests continue to provide for the people in the communities that depend on them. It's a reminder that even in the aftermath of fire, there's hope, pride, and a path forward. If you're listening to the podcast, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. We would love for you to subscribe, like, and share it with people that maybe you know or other people in the sector. If you want to learn more about Forest Nova Scotia, the organization that I work for, you can go to forestns.ca. That's our website. You can click on there, listen to our podcast, and find out more information about forestry and the forest sector in Nova Scotia.